Welcome back, guys. Sorry I had to cut this into two parts simply because my wife walked in with a friend and they were talking, and I meant to hit pause to avoid any background noise, and I actually hit stop, which means it stops the video. And I don't know if there was any way to bring it back. Not that savvy, so I made this into two parts. But I left off with the comparison between the PowerPoints between Goodnight Olive and Kirsten Bosch, and it came out to 4 points total when I used my system here. And the top four were Goodnight Olive, Kirsten Bosch, Seventh Society, and Three Witches. So we do have a nice morning line price on Kirsten Bosch at 10-1, sandwiched between the two morning line favorites, the 6-5 1 and the 5-2 7. And then we have Three Witches. The 8 horse finished slightly above the 2 for fourth. We have a 30-1. So if I was going to go deeper in an exotic, I would throw the 2, maybe the 3, the 2, and the 3 both in there as well. Okay, promise, no more interruptions. So we have a 1, 5, 7, 8, and like I said, if I was going to go deeper in exotics, which if I do play a try, I'm not going to box all 4. What I'll do is I'll probably put the 1 and 5 on top, and use the 7 and the 8, and maybe the 2 and the 3 in the later legs. Let's see what we come up with. All right. Now, for the rest of them, I'm not going to go as in-depth with explaining what these columns are. I wanted to do it one time. That way you knew the different segmented formats here for analysis. Again, obviously, a horse only needs to show up even once, maybe somewhere here, and that might be all the horse needs. Those that favor pace would probably favor these categories down here. Okay, those that have had luck with the matrix factors and just simply using the TC thorough capping format, you'd favor up here. And that's why I was mentioned before many moons ago, it would be really, really nice to be able to weight these factors where they're not all equal. But at the same time, again, I don't have the formulas to do that. I would have to start tracking which factors are more successful than the other factors and so on. But even if I did track that, which I started doing for a while, I still don't have the formulas, the knowledge to be able to put the formulas in that way a 90 in one factor isn't the same as a 90 in another factor. They're weighted a little bit differently. All right, let's move on. The next one I have is the Breeders' Cup Distaff. And if you look at the categories here, the top 4 were the 6 search results, which is a 5-1 morning line. I have a feeling that horse is going to be bet down a little bit. I don't think we're going to see 5-1. We may see 3-1, 7-2. The 8 randomized, morning line 6-1. The 5 Adair Manor, and the 4 Idiomatic. Let's take a look at the grid real quick. The 6 horse search results dominates the matrix side of the grid. And he also, I don't want to say dominates overall with the TC rating, but I mean, he is top. He's the only one in the 90s. When we look over here and we combine both thorough capping and FTF, we have the 6 search results showing up on top. The only difference would be he doesn't show up. Well, he does actually. I should have said that. He shows up pretty much as a standout for me. I mean, he's showing up second in segment 1, segment 2, and segment 3 pace. He's top in early pace, and he's second in sustained and overall average. All right, so that's why he is my top play here. And I'll leave this here for a second, so that way if you guys want to pause and see where everybody else figures in the different parts of the grids, follow the figures. The 4 horse is right behind Idiomatic. The 4 is the morning line favorite in this race, by the way. And the 4 horse, the 5 horse, I'm sorry. No, 4 horse, Idiomatic. 5 horse, Adair Manor, which is a Baffert horse, is actually, I put him as second place here. He shows up more in the matrix factors than the 4 Idiomatic. But we look at our overall analysis again, and we have 6, 8, 5, 4. Let's take a look at the 8. Where does that 8 squeeze into the picture? The 8 squeezes in. If we look at the segmented analysis here, we have the 8 third here, second, tops, second, tops in velo 2, tops in velo 3, and tops in sustained pace, tops in overall pace. Okay, but again, got to trust my math. The 6 horse does finish a little bit higher than the 8 in the overall power points. All right, so let's take a look here at the filly mare. This is the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I think I have one more that I didn't go over here. I might have skipped one. I don't know if we went over the... Yeah, we went over that. We went over the mile. Yeah, we did. We look at the distaff. The distaff... I'm sorry. The sprint. Okay, the sprint was kind of a mixed bag over here on the Matrix side. I mean, it was kind of a toss-up. We have Dr. Chevelle, we have the 4 Hoist of Gold, and we have the 7 Speedboat Beach. And I did go with the 7, but it could have been the 4 or the 7 either way. In fact, I probably should have gave tops to the 4 because of the 97.7 opposed to the 97.4. But as you guys know, I always favor Target when they're that close. So I did put the Target horse on top, and he's also co-ability with the 4. We look down here. The 8 horse Elite Power shows up on the left side of the FTF grid. Same thing with the 9 Gunite. The 7, really, I don't want to say nada, but his figures aren't that impressive when you compare best on the year, best on the surface, best at the different distance, and last out, and we come together with our variables 1 and 2. The 7 horse, that's where the 7 horse lacks. Same thing over here on the left side of the grid. The average of the last 3 goes to the 9 Gunite. And when we total them up, Elite Power actually gets the top. Along with Gunite in second, 4 Hoist of Gold, and the 1 Nakatomi. So the follow the figures grid, if we were using this method only, the 7 Speedboat Beach would not even be in the picture. In fact, he wouldn't even be 5th in the picture. If we were going to go another one, it would probably be the 2 horse, Dr. Chevelle. But when we run the pace now, the Speedboat Beach is second in the early, tops in the second segment, which is the turn, far turn again, and he also gets the nod across the board here for early pace, sustained pace, and average overall pace. And that puts him on top in the power points. And again, I rank these based on the power points. We'd have to reach into my third place here to find value at 12-1. We have a 3-1 morning line on the 7, 9-5 morning line on the 8, and then Hoist of Gold is actually 12-1 morning line. And then finally the Classic. Okay, we had to make some moves in the Classic. We had to get rid of a few horses. But we do have a field of 12 running, with Arabian Night being the... no, actually 13. I'm sorry. Proxy is the 13th. Baffert's early speed horse, Arabian Night, is going to have to come from the 12 post, which, because of that reason, what I did was I knocked him down a little bit as far as in my rankings. But we'll take a look at the rankings in a second. Number 2, Zandon, is tops in my matrix side of the grid, out of the matrix factors. And then Way to Barrio shows up along with the 13 Proxy. But then we have the 7 Clapton as well. I got my eye on this horse. Okay, 7 is going to be my projected long shot to get in the money, somewhere in the money. And then we have Arabian Night showing up as well. So this was somewhat of a mixed bag too. When we look at the overall picture, but the 2 Zandon stands out for me. And the 2 is Zandon is at a pretty good morning line right now. He's at 12-1. As you can see, I gave you a sneak peek of my order, and I did list a total of 6 here, but we'll get to that in a second. TC ratings, you can see where they figure here. Zandon, Clapton, White Barrio. And this is actually, it should be 2, not 1. Or actually 1 now. Arcangelo was the 1. Arcangelo is also out of this race now. And he was a heavy contender. And I didn't toss him down here and here. But I think I tossed him in my overall, right? No, I didn't. Well, anyways, I can get rid of him now. You can see where he was figuring. He was figuring in the top portion here. But Saudi Crown is actually figuring in my follow the figures. The left side. Second, he's now tops on the right side because of the scratch of Arcangelo. So we'd have 1 and 2 here. And we have too many 103s. I'm not listing the third. So we have Saudi Crown and White Barrio as our top 2 in FTF2. There we go. In the overall total rating, Clapton actually shows up on top in the follow the figures. And again, that's a long shot. Shows up tied with Bright Future at 88. No, I'm sorry, over here. White Barrio shows up on top. I got this mixed up. So we have the White Barrio, which is the 3. Clapton is the 7. Zandon. So it should be White Barrio up here. Let's put that up there now. Copy. Paste. White Barrio, Clapton, Zandon, and then Saudi Crown. When we look at the pace down here, you can see what we have. We have Derma Sotogaki, the Japanese horse, actually showing up in the early stage in the pace grid, velocity 1, and and he's also showing up because of that. He shows up second in the early pace, but he shows up nowhere else. So I'm not using him at all in my top. But here's the thing, Senor Buscador. I told you I love this horse in the mile. Okay, if we take a look at the mile real fast. And I don't know which one he was now. But for a split second, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all these white. There we go. He figured very well for me. Okay, here. Figured top for me. Over here. Figures tops for me. Or second here. Finished tops for me in the TC rating. But at the same time, he's not in this race anymore. So we can get rid of that. And we can look at him here. And the only place he shows up in the Classic for me is when I ran the pace numbers. Okay? Which tells me he still could have a shot as a potential long shot. He is the top second velo. So if he gets in good position early in the race, he does show off his pace line, that I used, the best second turn, best far turn velocity. And that's something right there to keep an eye on. And because of that, he finishes tops for me in early pace. Okay, falls off a little bit here and here. But the question is, what's the pace of this race going to be like, especially if Arabian Night, who was the projected speed horse, and he likes to run in front, he's probably going to try to get the front, but does he use himself up because he's coming out of the 12 post? But when you look at this overall, I have the 2 Zandon, which I'm loving the fact that he's 12-1 morning line. And we have a White Barrio, 4-1, and we have Clapton, 20-1, third in power points overall. I'm throwing this horse in simply because of this is the Japanese horse. And I love the replay. So if you have a chance to, if you Google this horse here and try to find a replay of this horse, he just unloaded on the stretch and just blew by everybody. But again, if you look at the replays on a lot of these horses, you're going to be impressed with a lot of their late speed. I don't have any data on this horse because, again, those past performances don't tell you squat. But I wanted to throw that horse in my mix along with Arabian Night and then I use Senor Buscador as well. Now, with those 6 horses, how am I going to bet this race? Like I always bet the Classic and the Derby and the Belmont and the Preakness, unless there's shorter fields. What I do is I will do one ticket where I just follow my normal standard, where I'll put my top plays on top, and let's say a trifecta with these 4 underneath for second, these 4 underneath for third. And then I also may put together some exacta wheel boxes where I start mixing in like 2, 8 over 3, 7, 12, 9. And maybe another one with just the long shots in there in case it is an upset race. Maybe a 7, 9 over 2, 3, 8, 12. And obviously, I'll keep an eye on the odds of the 2, the 7, and the 9. And the value is going to be there without a doubt. And put some win plays on that as well. So, I mean, that's my analysis of the Breeders' Cup Saturday main track races. Tomorrow I plan on diving into the turf races and see what I can do with them, especially again with all those foreign shippers. And I mentioned in part 1 of this segment that what I'm going to do is each of those turf races I'm going to list 1 foreign shipper and 3 of my top choice American horses, based off the same factors here that I'm using for the main track, and see what we come up with. Those that are interested, if you would like me to throw these new grids into the Thorough Capping Deluxe grid download, for those of you that have Thorough Capping Deluxe, I'll throw them in there. All you got to do is go and download the grids again, make a copy, and you'll have access to this new grid as well, along with all the other grids that I have on there. Those that do not have Thorough Capping Deluxe and you're a first-time viewer, or you've been watching this a few times but haven't made the purchase, there's a download link in the description below. You can download it. It's a step-by-step tutorial that shows you how to do all of this stuff here. And you also get a free Follow the Figures download along with that, which is a set of methods of itself, all for $32.99. So if you want to make the investment, again, the link is in the description below. And then my next video will be what I get done with the the turf races. All right, thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.